Zorgon, struggling to maintain his composure, demanded, "Human, explain yourself. What is the meaning of this tinkering?" Aris shrugged. "Just trying to help you guys out. Can't vaporize a planet with a busted engine, can you?" He paused, then added with a wink, "Besides, I've got some time to kill." The tension on the bridge was palpable. The Rigellians couldn't decide whether Aris was a genius, a madman, or simply an incredibly annoying pest. His actions defied all logic, all strategic analysis. Was this some kind of elaborate ruse, a cunning attempt to disable their weapon? Or was he simply fixing it? The true scope of Aris's intentions remained a mystery, shrouded in a cloud of cleaning fluid and sarcastic remarks. A low hum filled the bridge as Aris stepped back, admiring his handiwork. "All right, let's fire this baby up," he announced, clapping his hands together. Zorgon, his face a mask of bewildered fury, sputtered, "Fire it up? Are you insane? We haven't authorized any testing," Aris finished for him. Yeah, safety protocols, I get it." He strode over to a large circular panel on the side of the Planet Vaporizer 5000, a panel covered in strange symbols and blinking lights. He pressed a button labeled, in surprisingly clear English, "Start." The machine whirred to life, its internal mechanisms groaning and clicking. A warm orange glow emanated from the central chamber. The Rigellians watched in stunned silence, their weapons still trained on Aris, but their fingers twitching nervously on the triggers. Was this it? Was Earth about to be reduced to space dust? Suddenly, a popping sound erupted from the machine, followed by a series of rapid-fire explosions. The orange glow intensified, and a delicious, buttery aroma filled the bridge, overpowering even the pungent scent of Aris's cleaning fluid. The Rigellians exchanged confused glances. Vaporizing a planet wasn't supposed to smell like food. "What is the meaning of this?" Zorgon roared, his voice barely audible over the popping. Aris just grinned, pointing to a small chute at the bottom of the machine. "Behold," he exclaimed. And from the chute poured forth a torrent of fluffy white popcorn. The Rigellians stared, mouths agape, as the bridge floor was covered in the strange, earthly substance. One brave, or perhaps foolish guard reached out a tentacle and tentatively touched a piece of popcorn. He recoiled in disgust. "What is this inedible fluff?" Aris chuckled. "Inedible? My friend, you've clearly never had properly buttered popcorn. This," he declared, grabbing a handful and tossing it into his mouth, "is a culinary masterpiece." He chewed thoughtfully, then added, "Needs a little salt, though." The truth began to dawn on the Rigellians, a slow, agonizing realization that crashed over them like a tidal wave of humiliation. The Planet Vaporizer 5000 wasn't a planet vaporizer at all. It was, in fact, a highly sophisticated popcorn machine. Their most feared weapon, the culmination of years of reverse engineering, was nothing more than a glorified snack maker. It turned out that the Rigellians had only observed the device once, through a heavily distorted and damaged telescope. The Earth scientists using it were enjoying movie night and snacking on popcorn, but at such long distance, the popcorn machine was mistaken for a weapon. Aris, it transpired, was not a brilliant scientist or a cunning saboteur. He was, quite simply, a popcorn enthusiast. And he'd been trying to improve the machine's efficiency to achieve the perfect kernel-to-popped ratio. The Rigellian Armada, poised to conquer Earth, had been outsmarted by a man in his desire for better movie snacks. The absurdity of the situation was almost too much to bear. Zorgon stood speechless, the weight of his monumental misjudgment crushing him. His second-in-command, a quivering blob named Glar, whispered, "But the calculations, the energy readings, they all pointed to planetary annihilation." Aris mid-chew shrugged. "Yeah, well, you probably miscalculated the butter ratio. That can throw everything off." The bridge, once a scene of tense anticipation, was now filled with the faint scent of burnt popcorn and the heavy silence of utter defeat. Then, something unexpected happened. A low rumble emanated from Zorgon, a sound that slowly morphed into laughter. It started as a hesitant chuckle, then grew into a full-blown, tentacle-shaking roar. Glar and the other Rigellians stared, unsure whether to join in or call a medic. "By the great galactic grubworm," Zorgon boomed, wiping a tentacle across his face. "We came here to conquer, and we were defeated. By popcorn, the irony, the sheer delicious irony." He turned to Aris, a strange glint in his eye. "Human," he said, his voice surprisingly jovial. "You have shown us the true meaning of humility, and also the importance of a good snack." The Rigellian Armada didn't conquer Earth. Instead, they extended a tentative, somewhat embarrassed olive branch, or rather a bucket of slightly stale popcorn. Earth, still reeling from the near invasion, cautiously accepted. After all, who could say no to an intergalactic alliance built on a shared love of movie nights? The first official act of the newly formed Earth-Rigellian Alliance was not a trade agreement or a military pact, but a request. A request from Zorgon himself. "Human Aris Thorne," he declared, his voice broadcast across the globe. "We implore you, share with us the perfect popcorn recipe." And so began Earth's unexpected role as a cultural ambassador, not of advanced technology or military might, but of buttery, salty goodness. Aris, now hailed as a hero, much to his own amusement, found himself fielding requests from all corners of the galaxy, each seeking his expertise in the art of popcorn perfection. He even started a YouTube channel, Aris's Atomic Popcorn, blowing your taste buds to another dimension. It became an instant hit. The Rigellians, it turned out, were surprisingly enthusiastic students. They meticulously analyzed every aspect of the process, from kernel selection to butterfat content. Their attempts were often disastrous, resulting in explosions, burnt offerings, and popcorn so dense it could be used as construction material. But they persevered, driven by a genuine desire to master the art of the perfect snack. Aris, with a sigh and a roll of his eyes, took on the role of reluctant mentor. He patiently explained the nuances of stovetop popping, the importance of a good shake, and the delicate balance of salt and butter. He even developed a Rigellian-friendly version of popcorn, using locally sourced space kelp for a uniquely acquired taste. But the real challenge wasn't the popcorn itself, it was understanding the human culture that surrounded it. The Rigellians were baffled by Earth's obsession with movies, its strange traditions, and its inexplicable humor. They peppered Aris with questions. Why do humans enjoy watching other humans pretend to be other humans? What is the purpose of a romantic comedy? Is it true that some humans put cheese on their popcorn? Aris did his best to explain, often resorting to sarcasm and exasperated sighs. He introduced them to classic Earth films, from Star Wars to The Room, each viewing followed by hours of bewildered analysis and philosophical debate. He even attempted to explain the concept of irony, a task that proved to be more challenging than reverse engineering a planet vaporizer. Slowly, awkwardly, a cultural exchange began. The Rigellians shared their own art, music, and culinary traditions, most of which were, frankly, terrifying. The humans, in turn, introduced them to the joys of pizza, the beauty of sunsets, and the comforting absurdity of cat videos. The galaxy was a slightly stranger, but undeniably more delicious place. The culmination of this newfound alliance arrived in the form of a grand galactic movie night, hosted aboard the newly refurbished and popcorn-scented Rigellian flagship. Humans and Rigellians, side by side, settled in for an evening of cinematic entertainment. The movie choice, a gesture of interspecies goodwill, was made by Earth. Plan 9 from outer space. Aris winced as the opening credits rolled. "Oh boy," he muttered, grabbing a handful of popcorn. "They are not ready for this." The Rigellians, however, watched with rapt attention, their multiple eyes unblinking. They meticulously analyzed the stilted dialogue, the cardboard sets, and the sheer inexplicable plot. Throughout the film, Aris provided a running commentary, a mix of sarcastic observations and desperate attempts to explain the unexplainable. "See, that's acting," he'd say, as Bela Lugosi, or, well, someone vaguely resembling him, stumbled across the screen. "And that's a flying saucer. Sort of." The Rigellians, bless their literal-minded hearts, took everything at face value. They debated the scientific plausibility of the resurrection plot, the strategic implications of the alien invasion, and the aerodynamic properties of the paperplate spaceships. By the end of the movie, they were utterly perplexed. Zorgon turned to Aris, his tentacles twitching. "Human," he said, his voice a mixture of confusion and awe. "Is this supposed to be bad?" Aris grinned. "Oh yeah," he said. "It's legendarily bad. It's so bad it's good." Zorgon considered this for a moment, then slowly nodded. "I believe," he declared, "that I am beginning to understand human culture." He reached for another handful of popcorn, a single contented tear rolling down his tentacle. The interspecies friendship, cemented in butter and bad cinema, was finally complete. The Rigellian Armada hung in the void like a swarm of metallic locusts, each warship bristling with enough firepower to turn a small moon into cosmic dust. Their arrival had been heralded by weeks of increasingly frantic radio signals from deep space. Signals that abruptly ceased as soon as the first Rigellian vessel breached the outer atmosphere. Earth, it seemed, was about to become another footnote in the Rigellian conquest logs, a log already stretching across several galaxies. The Rigellians weren't particularly malevolent, just supremely pragmatic. Resources were dwindling in their home system, and Earth possessed something they desperately needed: dihydrogen monoxide, or, as humans quaintly called it, water. Aboard the flagship Imperator Rex, Supreme Commander Zorgon paced his bridge, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the harsh blue light. He surveyed the holographic projection of Earth, a swirling blue marble with cold, calculating eyes. "Prepare the invasion fleet," he rasped, his voice a series of clicks and guttural tones. "Resistance is expected, but ultimately futile." Meanwhile, deep within the bowels of the Imperator Rex, in a dimly lit holding cell, sat Dr. Aris Thorne. He wasn't your typical action hero. He wasn't particularly brave, strong, or even that bright, to be honest. A rumpled, middle-aged scientist with a perpetually bored expression, Aris had been scooped up during the initial Rigellian landing, mainly because he happened to be standing next to the only functioning radio telescope in Kansas. He was currently using a rusty spoon to try and pry open a packet of stale nutrient paste the Rigellians had thoughtfully provided. "Seriously?" he muttered to himself, his voice echoing in the small cell. "Even alien prison food is bland." He glanced up as the cell door hissed open, revealing a towering Rigellian guard, its multifaceted eyes glinting menacingly. Aris sighed. "Oh joy, my Uber's here." Aris was escorted, or rather prodded, down a series of sterile corridors, each identical to the last. The Rigellian guards maintained a rigid silence, their movements precise and synchronized. Aris, on the other hand, shuffled along humming a tuneless melody and occasionally tripping over his own feet. This immediately raised eyebrows, or rather, ocular protrusions, among the Rigellian ranks. Protocol 72 clearly stated that prisoners of war should exhibit signs of fear and/or remorse. Aris's apparent indifference was unsettling. He was brought before Commander Zorgon himself, who stood on the bridge, surrounded by his officers. Zorgon fixed Aris with a piercing stare. "Human," he stated, his voice echoing through the chamber, "you are accused of resisting the rightful claim of the Rigellian Empire upon this planet." Aris blinked. "Resisting? I was trying to fix my car. The carburetor was acting up. Does that count?" The bridge crew exchanged confused glances. Carburetor? Was that some kind of Earth weapon? Zorgon frowned. "Silence. You will reveal the location of your planet's strategic defense network," Aris shrugged. "Strategic defense network? Last I checked, it was mostly potholes and angry squirrels. You guys are way overprepared. This flippant response sent ripples of consternation through the Rigellian ranks. Their intelligence reports had indicated a primitive yet potentially dangerous resistance. This was just confusing. One particularly zealous officer, Glar, stepped forward. Human, we have analyzed your primitive communication signals. We know of your sarcasm. Do not attempt to deceive us with your illogical pronouncements. Aris raised an eyebrow. Illogical, says the guy wearing a skirt made of seashells. No offense. Glar's mandibles twitched. Seashells were a symbol of high rank and unwavering devotion to the Emperor. This human was clearly attempting to undermine their authority with fashion criticism. Zorgon, sensing the situation spiraling out of control, intervened. Human, he boomed, you will cooperate or face the consequences. Aris sighed dramatically. Look, I'm happy to help, but I'm kinda hungry. You got any of those nutrient paste things left? Maybe with a little hot sauce this time? The Rigellian stared at him, utterly dumbfounded. This was not how interrogations were supposed to go. Tension, fear, desperate pleas for mercy. Those were the expected responses, not requests for condiments. The Supreme Commander began to wonder if they had accidentally captured the village idiot instead of a key military strategist. But something about Aris's nonchalant attitude suggested a deeper, more sinister motive. Was this all an elaborate ruse? Was he feigning ignorance to lull them into a false sense of security? Zorgon decided to proceed with caution. He had a planet to conquer, and he wasn't about to be outsmarted by a sarcastic human with a craving for spicy space food. Commander Zorgon, visibly frustrated, decided to change tactics. Human, perhaps you failed to appreciate the gravity of your situation. He gestured dramatically towards a massive viewport revealing a device of truly awe-inspiring scale. Behold, the Planet Vaporizer 5000. Aris squinted. Planet Vaporizer 5000. Sounds like something I saw on a late night infomercial. The weapon was indeed impressive. A colossal structure of gleaming metal and pulsating energy, it dominated the Rigellian flagship. Cables snaked across its surface, feeding power into a central focusing array that crackled with barely contained energy. Zorgon puffed out his chest, clearly relishing the moment. This human is the culmination of centuries of Rigellian engineering. With a single blast, we can reduce your insignificant little world to a cloud of cosmic dust. He paused for effect, expecting a reaction of abject terror. Aris yawned. Yeah, I get the picture. Big boom. Earth goes bye-bye. Can we speed this up? I'm missing my stories. Zorgon's ocular protrusions narrowed. The human's apathy was beyond infuriating. It was strategically unsound. How could they demoralize a population if their captive representative seemed more interested in reruns than planetary annihilation? Determined to break through Aris's irritating nonchalance, Zorgon pressed on. Perhaps you will be more impressed to learn the Planet Vaporizer 5000 is powered by your own technology. A murmur of surprise rippled through the Rigellian ranks. The idea that these primitives possessed the key to their own destruction was almost too ironic to believe. Zorgon gestured towards a series of control panels. Our scientists have reverse-engineered your internal combustion engine. The raw power of your fossil fuels is harnessed to generate the energy required for planetary vaporization. He beamed, confident that he had finally delivered a blow to Aris's seemingly impenetrable indifference. Aris's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of something resembling amusement crossing his face. Wait, you're using gasoline to power that thing, seriously? He began to chuckle, a low rumble that grew steadily louder. The Rigellians exchanged worried glances. Had the human finally cracked under the pressure? You guys, Aris said, wiping a tear from his eye. You're trying to destroy a planet? With a lawnmower engine? The Rigellian bridge fell silent, the only sound the faint hum of the Planet Vaporizer 5000. a sound that now seemed pathetically inadequate. Zorgon's face turned a shade of purple previously unknown in the Rigellian color spectrum. This was not going according to plan. Not at all. The paradox was almost unbearable. The most advanced weapon in the Rigellian arsenal, capable of obliterating entire worlds, relied on the technology of a species they considered laughably primitive, and to add insult to injury, that species was now openly mocking them. The stakes had suddenly been raised, and not in the way Commander Zorgon had intended. Aris, now seemingly bored with the whole planet vaporizing charade, sauntered over to the planet vaporizer 5000. He circled it slowly, tapping on various panels with a disconcertingly casual air. The Rigellian guards, initially frozen in shock, snapped back to attention, their energy weapons trained on the human. "What do you think you're doing, human?" Zorgon barked, his voice strained. Aris didn't respond, instead pulling a small multi-tool from his pocket, a device that looked woefully out of place next to the colossal weapon. He began fiddling with a panel near the base of the machine, muttering to himself. "Just a little adjustment," Aris mumbled, inserting a small screwdriver into a vent. Sparks flew, and a series of warning lights flickered ominously. The Rigellian scientists, who had previously been so proud of their reverse-engineered technology, now looked on in horror. Was this sabotage? Was the human about to destroy their ultimate weapon? Zorgon's patience finally snapped. "Seize him," he roared. But before the guards could react, Aris held up a hand, a triumphant grin on his face. "Aha! Found it." He yanked a small, blackened component from the panel. "No wonder this thing's running so rough. Your fuel injectors are completely gunked up." The Rigellian stared in disbelief. Fuel injectors? Gunked up? Was this primitive creature suggesting that their planet-vaporizing technology was suffering from engine trouble? Aris, oblivious to their mounting confusion, continued his impromptu repair work. He rummaged through his pockets again, pulling out a small can of what appeared to be cleaning fluid. "Just gonna spray a little of this in here," he said cheerfully. "Should clear things right up." He proceeded to douse the fuel injectors with the fluid, the pungent smell filling the bridge. The Rigellians coughed and sputtered, their olfactory sensors clearly not designed for such an assault.